Welcome back to the War Room. I am Shooter Hunt here for Prep Baseball and Draft HQ with a special episode. We dragged the great doctor, David Seifert, out of the lab where he's been cooking up all sorts of draft content from the college side. We're going to be doing plenty of these, Seif, so make sure you have your residency stay set to go. But today we're going to be talking with the great Dr. Seif about the top college power speed draft prospects. And Seif, I want you to dive into for us right off the bat and get into it, why there's so much value attributed to guys like this with that power speed combo.
Well, first of all, if you look at the draft every single year, I mean, you can point to 2023, right? Dylan Cruz and Wyatt Langford, power and speed. So if you have speed, you can likely play in the middle of the diamond. And if you have power, you can play in the corner of the diamond, right? You can play the corner. So if you have both, I'm not saying you can play anywhere. You know, obviously a lefty's not going to be playing shortstop or second base, a left-hand thrower that is. But the combination of power and speed, they're rare. I won't say they're unique by any means. There's always 10, 12 guys every year that do have at least solid average of both. But the combination is rare. So those guys naturally, if they can put the bat on the ball, those guys, those are first rounders. Those are easy day one guys. And, and if they can't, they still have value. Like, not to go the negative train already, but like guys like Dakota Jordan, Rodney Green Jr., they have power, they have speed, but they just didn't have the bat to ball, but they're still fourth rounders. So there's always a place for power speed combination guys in the top rounds of the draft.
And you know what's interesting now you're talking about that, just if you look at the F WAR, whatever the WAR is of some of the top guys, the impact upside of we want to grab the highest of ceilings. I think about Vance Honeycutt, who, had some issues that we discussed, but the Orioles think if we can fix these issues, we have such infinite WAR value on a guy like this. We're talking Mike Trouts of the world, Aaron Judge, a center fielder, Jackson Merrill doing great things in center field. Tons of value up the middle when you combine those guys. And I think for what you have here, which is awesome to read through, be sure to check it out on prepbaseball.com. Also check out d1baseball.com. Seif's doing both sides of things. The amount of, if we hit right here, this is intrinsic, massive value for us, especially coming out of the draft. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it on the head with Honeycutt. Last year, the highest guy went 1-1, Travis Bazzana, power and speed, right? Honeycutt had both, but he also was an 80 defender. I mean, I don't throw around the 80 tool very often, as you know, but like, he is an elite defender. So he already had that going for him. He'll probably make the big leagues just based on his defense. But man, if he does figure out something just to tap in the power, he can hit 220. But if he taps into his power and he's 80 defender, man, he's an everyday guy. He's an all-star. So and then this year, well, the guy last year I think got kind of overlooked by the industry as a whole. He certainly wasn't overlooked on draft day because he went in the second round, was Emilian Petre from Kentucky. He went second round to Tampa Bay, but he was I think he was in the top 75 of our draft board, but certainly he was not like a well-known household name, the day before the draft.
Well, so let's shift over to this year, and we're still 8-9 months away from maybe 10 months. I got to check my math from the draft, but there are clearly some classics at the top, some names that everybody's going to know. We're talking about the past, the Dylan Cruzes of the world, but Jace Lavalette, who the ability for him to stick in center field, the amount of athleticism that he brings to the diamond with that power profile. Tell us about Lavalette and why he is on our draft board, the number one college prospect, the number one prospect. What makes him so special?
I think just he stands out. Obviously, there's things he still needs to improve upon, but he's 6'4", 230 pounds. So as much power and speed as Dylan Cruz had, as Wyatt Langford had, Lavalette is 6'4", 230. He can play center. He's a plus runner. I know his stolen bases this past year, I think he only had like 7 or 8. It didn't play just because of A&M's offense, just their offensive philosophy. Lavalette sold 18 as a freshman. He had 21 home runs. Last year, I think he had 28 home runs. So he has 70 power. He has 60 underway speed. He can steal a base, but he sets himself apart because, again, he's 6'4", 230. And usually if you're that large, you don't run, right? You may have that power, but you don't run. But man, he's 1-1 in our draft board right now, and for good reason. He's certainly got to, shorten up or make a little more contact more often, but it's not like it's bad. So
I always go back to Joe Torville and the blast metrics. He's a Mack truck with the ability to speed up in a hurry like a Ferrari. Behind him, though, and he'll probably go in the year the most exciting player in college baseball. Is that fair to say on a kid like Cam Canarella? Because you just got to tune in to watch him. How close are he and Lavalette? What is the separation there right now in this fall?
The speed is similar. Canarella is probably a better runner, although Canarella didn't show it last year. He's hurt. He DH'd most of the year, hurt his shoulder, didn't want to slide, didn't want to, aggravate it. So he had 0 stolen bases, but he's a 20 stolen base guy. He's also got 15 home run potential in college. I'm not sure if it's probably more 10 to 15 in pro ball, but the bigger, stronger, he's already fast. As you know, he's not honeycut defensively, but he has a small sliver below honeycut. I mean, Canarella's got to be a 70 defender. So he can run, he can throw, he can hit for some power. Again, he's not probably a 25 home run guy in the big leagues, but he certainly has power, at least average power. And who knows how he's going to come out, right? He was injured, he rehabbed, he gained strength. He was out all summer, he's out all fall. He'll be ready December 1st is the word. Who knows how big and strong and fast he's going to come out. Guys change, as you know.
Is there a path for him to kind of rise? Is there at some point, what would he have to be doing where we're talking 1-1? This is a guy who has a 1-1 chance right here.
I think he would have to do what we just talked about, be close to a 20-20 guy, hit, hate to throw all these statistics out there because we know his tools. Number one, he has to stay healthy, right? But then to go perform and just to throw him out there, 15 home runs, hit over 350, steal some bases, show the speed. He's going to show the defense. But I think the other thing is some other guys would have to fall, like Lavalette. He would have to maybe continue to swing and miss at the same rate he is, which is not bad. It's like, I think 22%. So it's not like it's crazy bad like some others. But I think some other guys would have to come back to him as well. Okay. But he's certainly not – Canarella is certainly not that conversation for 1-1.
Okay, we're going to be dancing around a little bit here because some of these names are awesome. And obviously the power speed is so exciting to look at. Right on paper, most of these guys are filling out uniforms. They can really run. They put on a show in BP. They get after in the game. This is a familiar name because this guy was a 2022 Prep Baseball Super 60 participant. Illinois kid, went to Arizona where they have developed some really good guys. We'll be talking about another one next year, a kid from Minnesota. But Brendan Summerhill, who was outstanding at the Super 60, had all the tools in the world. I think for the most part, the scouting community, what does the decision-making look like? What is the swing going to look like with more at-bats? He's gone to the Pac-12, now the Big 12, and showing off some big stuff. What was his summer like? Where are we looking at him now?
He had a really good summer. Unfortunately, he had 286, a couple home runs, handful more doubles. Powers, he's that type that's gonna grow into his power. He necessarily doesn't have that plus power right now. I think his top EV last year was 110 or 111, which is average-ish. So he's gonna at 6'3", what's that?
Check the balls.
No, come on. He's legit. But he's 6'3", 200 pounds, 205. He's going to grow into that plus power, but he has the now plus speed. He plays center field. He's long and lanky. He's loose. He can probably stay in center field, although he's going to be a larger human being in center field. But I think for me personally, I was in the Cape for 10 days, saw him play one game. I was going to see him play again in the All-Star game, and I saw him play for a couple innings. He decided to try to make the catch of the year. He literally jumped into the center field fence and knocked himself out. It wasn't ambulance drove on the field. It wasn't bad. I mean, we were all thinking worst case and was terrible. But then we saw him move his arms, and that was good. And then the news was he just had some lacerations on his face, and he hit that fence hard. He actually hit a pole. He didn't hit the chain link. So it was quiet time for 15, 20 minutes. But he pulled out of it. He's doing fine this fall. But again, he's the type that's going to grow into that power. He doesn't have that plus power now, but he's certainly a day one talent who, with continued development, he's a first rounder.
What about, I got a couple in the hot topic, and it's not even quietly discussed anymore, but the transfer portal. There are some guys who have moved over, kind of fit this profile, but I'm looking at like guys like Josiah Ragsdale you have down here, Ethan Conrad especially. What do you got in those guys?
Ragsdale is a transfer from he was at Iona last year, stole 24 bases, had I think 13 doubles, a handful of home runs, hit really well too. Now he's at Boston College, but he's a plus runner, plays center field, can play center field. His exit velocity last year equates to below average raw power. It was 108. But again, developing guy, bigger, stronger, faster as a junior. Maybe he gets to average power. He's already got the plus speed. So maybe you got a day one guy there, but kind of a sleeper going from Iona to Boston College. And the other guy going from mid-major Marist, now at Wake Forest. So it's kind of like
with us.
What's that?
Nobody foxes with us. That's the Marist.
Oh, yeah, that's a good saying. I mean, but it's going to be kind of like last year when Wake Forest pulled a guy out of the transfer portal that ended up going on day one, first round. But Ethan Conrad, I saw him in the Cape. Man, it was love at first sight. It really was. I had no idea actually like where he was from, where he was going to. I just saw the roster's name and watched him play. And then you're out there for a few more days. You're like, oh, he was at Marist. Oh, well, he's already really good. But he's a 6'5", 60 guy. He had top exit velocity last year, 111, so that's above average power. And I just think he's going to go Wake. Bigger, stronger, faster. Play center field for the Demon Deacons. He was He was a first baseman at Marist. He's slotted to play center field at Wake Forest. And anytime you go from a corner to the middle and you have power and speed, that just inflates your value like crazy. And again, not to go on the negative trend, the only thing I think he really needs to prove to stay or jump into that first round, he has been abysmal against same-sided hurlers. So he's a left-handed hitter. His statistics are not good. As good as he is, he's like a 96th percentile hitter across the board against right-handers. He is literally like a 5th percentile hitter against lefties. So that's 2 seasons of stats. Hopefully he can make that not a third season of stats, but Ethan Conrad is definitely one to watch. 6'3", 200 pounds, long and lanky, just like Summerhill.
Well, he'll get plenty of action against Southpaws there in the ACC because they got a nice collection of those guys. What about, we're looking at a draft soft here. Dean Curley, California kid, went to Tennessee, wins the national title as a freshman, gets a ton of time at shortstop. I mean, what I loved about him coming out of high school is exactly what you have down here. It was easy juice, especially from the arm and the bat. Does not need much to get the hands working, get the barrel through the zone. Where does he situate himself, especially the fact that everybody got to see a lot of him last year?
I personally think he's a first rounder. I mean, we all saw him last year. He was, as a freshman, he was the national champion's everyday shortstop. So that's kind of good. He obviously had a good World Series. The first thing, you notice about him is the arm. It's a 70 grade arm. And I know we're talking about speed and power, but man, it's just that he has a bazooka for an arm. He's got above average raw power. He's an above average runner. He only stole 9 bases last year. But again, I mean, if I'm playing at Lindsay, I'm not stealing bases. I'm hitting bombs, and that's what he does. And he's only getting bigger and better too. Now, he may move to third base. They've got some other shortstops that portal transferred in there. So Curley may move to third, but I don't care. He actually probably profiles better at third because now he's a potential Gold Glove guy defensively at third base to go with plus power, to go with above average range. I mean, he's got it all at third base, but he can't play shortstop. But Curley's a first rounder for me already.
Well, let me pair it. The fact that Cam Smith has gone off and done amazingly well in his first stint in pro ball. How similar are they? I guess you would probably put Curley ahead defensively, clearly, but how similar are they going into the year? Both draft softs.
Well, Smith, they have comparable arms, but Curley's is better.
Okay.
half grade better, maybe a full grade better. He just got a cannon. Obviously, he's at least a full, maybe 2 grades better defensively, although it's hard to say that because I've never seen Curley at third base. I've always seen him as a shortstop, but, I mean, he has hands. He has everything. Smith had more raw power. Curley has raw power. Again, it's just developing. I wouldn't be surprised if Curly's raw power grade went from 55 to 65 this year.
Okay.
Typically, guys make about a 2-mile-per-hour jump, freshman, sophomore, and then sophomore to junior, typically. And then I think Curly is just a better hitter for average. Although I did like Cam Smith, I did not think he would make the adjustment to Wood in pro ball so quickly that he made for the Cubs in the short season. I mean, he just had a really strong start for the Cubs. So I think Curly is well ahead, at least for me, Curly's well ahead of where Cam Smith started the year before the draft. Again, Curly for me has to play his way out of the first round, and Cam Smith played his way into the first round for me last year.
Ooh, grab that soundbite. That's a really good line right there, Seif. Similarly, Trey Phelps, Trey Phelps, another draft soph who I'll go back to high school, was almost like I would say scouting fatigue with seeing him. He did so many things well, but he's at first base, outfield, could run, but the athleticism was clearly there. What I liked about him was the power was there. He took really good at bats every time I saw him. He tracked well. There was some really strong swing decisions, which I think probably helped him a lot to hit 353 in the SEC as a true freshman. What did you think of him with Team USA, and where were we eyeing him heading into the spring?
Truth be told, I was just having to be home. I think I was home on a Sunday. I went Thursday, Saturday out somewhere this past spring, and happened to be home on a Sunday. And I'm just flipping through the games. And Georgia, I haven't seen Georgia. Watching Trey Phelps, he's a freshman. Didn't think anything of it. And then after the game, kind of looking into him, he'll be sophomore eligible next year. So that was my first look at Trey Phelps. And then so I knew the name, I knew the talent, going into the USA CNT. And he was fantastic. He led they had two teams, as you know. He was on the younger, even though he is draft eligible in 2025, he was actually on the younger team. Most of those guys aren't eligible till 2026. But he led that team with a 385 average this summer. And granted, they only played like 4 or 5 games, so it's not a ton of at-bats. But he hit 353 as a true freshman for Georgia. He had, 15 home runs. He has plus raw juice now. He's a plus runner, but he only stole 1 base. So I really got to bear down on that and see if it's Christian Moore speed, where he just has plus speed, but he just can't get to it in the game. Or, that's just not what is asked of him to do, is steal bases in games. So I got to really bear down on, does that speed play? I do know he can play the outfield. And I do know he looked fine at third base. He got a little time on the dirt, and he looked fine there too. So super athletic. He's a power pack. I think he's you tell me, 5'11"-ish, 190?
I think he's taller than that.
Is he taller than that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll get, I think he's a pretty substantial sized kid.
Okay.
I will say, I'm going to go into the spring. I'm just going to say it right now, Seif, I'm team Trey Phelps right now. I like their.
I'm with you.
Okay, I'll be locked in on the Bulldogs throughout the spring.
I gotta look into this. The speed is usable and the height, it sounds like. So I'm all over it.
Okay. These next two I am ultra intrigued with. Because there's some of the more fascinating guys who I love to follow are the guys who are not super high profiled, heralded, coming out of high school, but kids who work their way into being real prospects. Right? So the guys who are not, these are not the famous names, but a kid at Cal Bap, Nick Dumesnil, am I saying that right?
I say Dumesnil, but you know me and last names.
That's true. I'm not going to trust you.
Dumesnil is the name that I heard in the Cape. So
okay,
I'm
so Nick Dumesnil and Daniel Dickinson, who's now at LSU, both West Coast guys. Now, Dumesnil was at Huntington Beach with some real bonus babies, first rounders, lots of good players. And Dickinson's a Washington kid who was on the West Coast. What's interesting about them, and you can check out their prep baseball profiles, some of the events that they came to. I don't know if I would put loud grades on what they looked like, let's say 4 years ago. But it says something about these two kids, what they have worked themselves into. Tell me about these two players, starting with Dumesnil at Cal Baptist.
Going into the Cape, I didn't know anything about him. I'd seen, before I go to the Cape, about a week before, I start going through statistics and just start looking each guy up, trying to, just try to get a feel for every guy out there, especially the 4 to 5 teams that I'm in charge of covering and writing reports on. So Dumesnil was one. So just look at him, making some phone calls. I kind of had a feeling like, hey, this is a pretty good player. Looking at his average, he was tearing up. So, but I get out there and he's a legit 5-tool guy. He's a plus runner. His max exit velocity was 113, which is a little bit better than plus, so to give it a 65 grade. He's a solid center fielder. He'll probably play right field at the next level. He's got the arm strength to do it, but he could be a part-time center fielder. And then he was an all-star. And then I finally got to see the swing, just a really good look at the swing. And he just barrel whipped a home run, just easy as can be, just left field, scoreboard. And there's a really good video on it on our website on the Speed Power
right
combo story. Just a really nice swing, simple swing, impressive bat speed. He's got power, and with his swing, he'll have power to all fields, just not his pull side. So he really blew me away. Is again just a small school, mid-major, Cal Baptist. He's a legit 5-tool guy.
Love it. Cal Bap does not get cheated either. They get lots of home runs over there. What about Dickinson? I had to go back and look at some of my notes because he was at an awesome prep baseball Washington preseason All-State event up in Centralia. What do you got in this kid?
His tools do not stand out, and body type wise, he's looks like just really good college baseball player. He looks athletic, but he's not like super fast or super strong or super whatever. But he just looks like a really good medium frame 6-foot athlete, and that's what he is. His raw power's average, top exit velocity was 110. He's a tick above average. Above average runner. He did steal 32 bases, but it's a lot of instincts. It'll be interesting to see if he can steal 20 in the SEC. It'll be interesting to see if he can get to that power consistently in the SEC. But certainly more baseball player than just crazy impressive tools. But as you said, he went to college. He's made himself better. He's grinded. Went to Utah Valley. Now he's at LSU.
Are you dreaming on if the absolute best scenario, a Matthew Shaw type, like this is a grinder, right bat, or is that just way off?
No, I think that's a good comp. Yeah, I mean, he's a day one prospect for me right now. I'm not sure I'm not in the first round with him, like maybe the industry is, or a lot of people in the industry. And I'm not saying they're wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm not there yet. For me right now, Dickinson is a mid-late second rounder, and produce, and we'll go from there.
All right, I got two more guys for us to talk about real quick here from big programs, but Harrison Didowick, who's at UVA, and then we'll get to Gavin Turley at Oregon State. But go with Didowick first. Tell us about where he's at. But I mean, looking at 6'4", 205, that's a pretty good frame.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what he was sophomore eligible last year, and I don't think he was selected. I think he just, wanted too much for what he projected himself to become this year. And I think at 6'4", 205, that's what he's banking on. Now, Didowick does not throw it all. It's a 30 arm, so right field is out of the question, but he can play center, probably profiles best to left field. He has average raw power, and he's a plus runner. So he made the list, average raw, plus runner. Now, the thing about him, and I think obviously he will improve it, those UVA guys usually improve year to year with their swings and with their production, with everything. He needs to cut down his strikeout rate. It's 23.5 last year, and that probably slashed his draft value as a sophomore eligible a little bit, but that's not saying he's not going to do it. And he's going to fill out. He's going to get even more raw power. Hopefully he can develop a little more arm strength. I just kind of leery there. It really doesn't matter at this point because he can play center adequately. He profiles best to left field. But yeah, he's another one, just long and lanky, room to improve.
I'd say it's going to be sneaky, but I think the UVA lineup's going to reload again.
Gavin, I think it'll be really good. Yeah.
Let's talk about Gavin Turley because he's, even since high school, has been one of the there's two sides of that coin, right? There's a lot of swing and miss at times, but there's some crazy power and athleticism. There's some freakiness to what he brings to that Beaver lineup. What did you see from it? Where are you standing with him right now? What are you expecting and forecasting?
Yeah, I think you said there's some freakiness to him. I mean, his freakiness, he's got the plus bat speed, probably plus bat speed, big time strength, 112 exit velocity max last year. And I spoke about Dakota Jordan, Rodney Green Jr.
I like that.
Earlier at the beginning here. And to me, that's the comp. Like Gavin Turley is those two, all tooled up, great bodies, but they all strike out a lot. Now Turley's a little bit better, or he's better than Jordan and Green both, because he was I'd say only 27%. That really still doesn't play, but he did improve in the Cape, 23%. And to me, my looks, he was trying to shoot the right center gap a little more often, staying through the ball better than I saw week 2 when I saw Oregon State in Texas against Hagen Smith. I saw that
nobody
game.
hit him.
No, nobody hit him that day. Not even Travis Bazzana. But anyway, but Turley is similar to those guys. Maybe, again, starting off a little bit better because he does not strike out as much as those two. But those are similar type of guys.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. That's a look at some of the top college power speed draft prospects. Shooter Hunt here with Dr. Seifert, the great David Seifert. And until next time, we'll see you guys.